We do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies. But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension, American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time.
You don't agree with that, is that?
Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
Keir Starmer just walked headfirst into a verbal beatdown, courtesy of Joe Rogan and JD Vance, a duo that turned their chat into a political wrecking ball. If you thought Starmer personality was bland before, just wait until they start tearing into his so-called policies. Spoiler, they're not much to tear into. What follows is raw truth, uneasy laughter, and a roast so sharp it could cut through steel. After this, Starmer's career might be looking for somewhere to hide.
I was talking with a friend recently, and we were talking about, one of the big dangers in the world, of course, is nuclear proliferation, though, of course, the Biden administration doesn't care about it. And I was talking about, what is the first truly Islamist country that will get a nuclear weapon? And we were like, maybe it's Iran, maybe Pakistan already kind of counts. And then we sort of finally decided maybe it's actually the UK, since Labour just took over. But
Keir Starmer, often described as a walking cloud of confusion, just got dismantled and left in political rubble by two unlikely voices, Joe Rogan and JD Vance. They couldn't be more different, but they share one crucial trait: zero patience for hollow rhetoric. It a rough day for Starmer when JD Vance, a man who sounds like he was assembled in a garage full of libertarian podcasts, manages to make more sense about British politics than the guy aiming to be Prime Minister.
It now in England where people are getting arrested for tweets.
Yeah.
There's something like 4,000 people have been arrested in England where they've said things online that people find to be a hateful thing or a problem.
That's what's happening in England right now, isn't it?
They arrested thousands of people for social media posts.
That's crazy. Were they threatening people?
They don't have to be. They don't have to be threatening.
We also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British, of course, what the British do in their own country.
Let's start with what Starmer seems most proud of: turning boredom into an art form. He speaks like a glitching robot programmed on courtroom transcripts, and his speeches have all the excitement of watching Bade paint dry. His campaign doesn't seem to have a real direction, just a flat, lifeless vibe like a rice cake left out in the rain.
Stage, says Starmer. That's what he said. And again, it comes back to this idea, no, Keir Starmer. It put you on the world stage. And that's what you love. You love glad-handing with your globalist mates, kissing up to all the massive transnational corporations which are crushing small businesses in this country. This is not about this country. This is putting us, again, giving, and we're getting, it seems, nothing.
Second question. And this is a criticism that's been levelled at you from voters, but also members of your shadow cabinet. Are you too boring to be the next Prime Minister?
Well, let me take that one. The only thing that's boring is opposition. That's what's boring.
Then comes Joe Rogan, never one for subtlety, slicing straight through the nonsense. He doesn't need to be an expert on British politics to recognize fake confidence when he sees it. Within minutes, he's asking the obvious question: how can one man be both indecisive and smug at the same time? Starmer talks like he's leading a revolution, but only if it's been pre-approved by a committee, stamped, and guaranteed not to offend the Liberal Democrats.
This dude in England, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, is literally ruining the country, and the people seem to hate him as well. It's sad because the country used to be great. Such a shame.
JD Vance jumps in next, sounding like a guy who picked up British politics as a hobby, and somehow still makes more sense than Starmer has in years. Like a substitute teacher walking into chaos, Vance lays it out plainly. Starmer's grand strategy is just a knockoff of the Conservatives' more apologies, fewer emotions. His face barely registers movement, like he running on screensaver mode. If his campaign went through an emotion detector, it'd just blink meh. Rogan can barely keep it together, wondering how the leader of a major party can sound like a board store clerk explaining refund policies. This isn't leadership at middle management pretending to be a movement.
London doesn't feel fully English to me anymore. UK leaders should look out for citizens of the UK or subjects or whatever you guys call yourselves. If immigration, non-stop immigration, was the way to create wealth and prosperity and lower home prices, then London would be doing great. And I got to tell you, I was in London last year and it's not doing so good.
Starmer's idea of reform sounds like, let's make things better, but with all the enthusiasm of someone ordering decaf at 3 a.m. His entire political style is built on never offending anyone, which, ironically, is exactly what drives people mad. He could walk into a room full of toddlers and still lose a popularity contest to the fire alarm. Every time he speaks, Britain collectively wonders, is this really our guy? Rogan didn't need notes to call it out, he just said what everyone thinking. JD Vance was equally stunned. Both men are known for being blunt, no filter required. And then there's Starmer, a man seemingly allergic to conviction. Watching him campaign feels like watching someone try to grab hold of fog. It not that he has no beliefs, it that he seems to have downloaded every belief at once, constantly buffering between them. Starmer doesn't stand for anything clear, he just circles around every idea, unsure which one to commit to. One day he waving the progressive flag, the next he's smiling at bankers like he auditioning for Most Agreeable Technocrat 2025. If leadership were a dating app, Starmer would swipe right on everyone, vanish mid-conversation, and then give a speech about shared values while still rewriting his manifesto in real time.
Is freedom of speech dead in this country?
I'm not across the details of the particular case, but let me give you the principles that I would apply. Firstly, I'm strongly in favour of free speech. We've had free speech in this country for a very, very long time, and we protect it fiercely. I'm equally, though, against incitement to violence against other people. That has long been an offence in our country, and rightly so. And so I say, don't know the details of this case, but free speech, yes. Incitement to violence, no.
And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizen suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
And then there's the constant shifting, the endless flip-flopping that becomes Starmer's signature move. He changes positions more often than a robot trapped in a small room. If he had a spirit animal, it'd be a weather vane spinning out of control in a storm. He a political shapeshifter, but every version he takes feels weaker than the last. One day he posing with striking workers like he just rediscovered what unions are, and the next he preaching fiscal responsibility, as if he headlining a seminar called How to Kill Momentum with Spreadsheets. He makes promises the way toddlers draw, full of enthusiasm, zero structure, and all destined for the bin shortly after. His idea of vision seems to be copying Tory policies, adding a tiny red heart, and calling it reform. Even JD Vance, a man who can spot political weakness from across the Atlantic, couldn't believe it when Starmer backtracked on a statement he'd made only minutes earlier. Rogan looked just as stunned, like someone had pitched him a diet made entirely of melted crayons. His face said it all. How does this guy not get dizzy from all the U-turns? Starmer leadership doesn't look like leadership at all, it feels like improv theater performed without a script. Every answer is tentative, every statement so wrapped in caution you have to dig to find out if he meant anything at all. Watching him try to take a stand is like watching someone play a game blindfolded, terrified to touch anything remotely controversial, and when he inevitably stumbles, he retreats behind his favorite shield, consensus. But he not leading the Labour Party. He dragging it along like a broken shopping cart full of abandoned ideas and half-hearted promises. JD Vance nailed it perfectly. Starmer isn't offering change, he offering a minor software update for Britain's system. Slightly newer, just as flawed, and guaranteed to crash under pressure. His whole pitch could be summed up as, "Don't worry, I won't do anything noticeable." That not leadership, that beige wallpaper running for office. He wants Britain to function like a lifeless startup powered by compromise and bad coffee. Meanwhile, the country facing real crises: inflation, a collapsing NHS, a housing nightmare, and Starmer shows up with the energy of a damp sock in a budget hotel. His responses are so sanitized they could disinfect an operating room while the nation burns. Instead of tackling problems, he schedules them. When people demand answers, he sends bullet points. He doesn't challenge power, he politely emails it, adds a CC, and hides behind appropriate language.
JD Vance is putting the pressure on Keir Starmer again. Thank God for JD Vance. He says that Keir Starmer must repeal hate speech laws in order to get a trade deal. He says there's a good chance of an agreement, but sources say his concerns over Starmer's attack on free speech is still a red line. I hope that red line stays there firmly.
This isn't leadership like a helpline run by a man who answers every call with, "That complicated." Let's revisit this next year. JD Vance called it right. Starmer has perfected the art of political avoidance. He's the kind of person who could get lost walking in a straight line. For him, leadership means gently whispering unity while everyone else is shouting for clarity. His version of bold action: forming another committee. He talks about reform the way someone assembles IKEA furniture, nervous, uncertain, and already regretting the decision. Yet somehow, people still call him the safe choice. Safe. This is a man so allergic to risk he probably checks both sides of a revolving door before walking through. If Britain's searching for vision, all Starmer offers is a smudged blueprint with a sticky note that says TBD. And when JD Vance, a man who looks built for bar fights and debate stages, admits, "Even I don't know what this guy stands for," you know it bad. Because if clarity were currency, Starmer would be broke, trying to trade expired talking points for attention. This is what happens when someone builds their public image out of press releases, apologies, and an overwhelming fear of taking a stand. He's not leading the Labour Party, he's managing national confusion. The only consistent thing about Keir Starmer is his refusal to be consistent about anything.
The administration is troubled by reports that some foreign governments are considering tightening the screws on U.S. tech companies with international footprints. Now, America cannot and will not accept that, and we think it's a terrible mistake, not just for the United States of America, but for your own country.
Joe Rogan didn't even have to try for jokes. Mocking Starmer was like teasing a paper bag with eyes drawn on it. He pointed out that Starmer leadership style makes watching paint dry feel like an action movie. Here a man who claims he's ready to lead Britain forward, but only after consulting a dozen focus groups, holding several internal meetings, and maybe checking social media for approval first. Then JD Vance jumped in, landing even harder blows. Starmer doesn't have a real base. He just has a loose crowd of people who dislike the Conservatives slightly more than they doubt him. His supporters don't cheer, they politely exhale. If enthusiasm were fuel, his campaign would have stalled in a supermarket car park months ago. When JD Vance, whose whole brand revolves around mocking political elites, looks at Starmer's hollow charm and says, "Even I wouldn't try that," you know things have gone off the rails. Starmer isn't angering voters, he's baffling them. Supporting him feels like trying to rally behind a screensaver. The longer you stare, the less it makes sense. His promises appear out of nowhere like bad magic tricks: no rabbit, no hat, and the finale ends with another shredded manifesto. He talks about bold change, but only in PowerPoint slides. He vows to challenge the system, but only with the system written permission. If he were any more cautious, he'd wear a helmet to bed.
You know what he's got, Andrew? He's got non-player character energy. Do you know what that means?
No.
NPC. Unfortunately, it's NPC is non-player character. Main player character is your charismatic leader with loads of riz. He's not got that.
He's a charisma bypass.
Rogan and Vance landed on one shared conclusion: if this is what Britain calls leadership, someone should probably check the air quality. Starmer isn't battling the establishment. He is the establishment, just in a quieter, more awkward package. He's not here to rebuild the system, he's here to alphabetize the filing cabinet.